Imagine a technological war waged in plain sight, its battles fought on your very screens, shaping the internet as we know it. A conflict so profound, yet so subtly orchestrated, that its full implications remain largely unspoken, perhaps even consciously forgotten. We're talking about the browser wars. It's not just a dusty chapter in tech history, it's a living, breathing conflict that continues to define our digital existence. But what if I told you the war never truly ended? What if the peace treaties were just truces, and the current landscape is merely a quiet occupation, with a looming, almost inevitable, new front about to open up? To truly grasp the insidious nature of this ongoing struggle, we must rewind to the dawn of the internet, a wild, untamed frontier. Picture the mid-1990s. The World Wide Web was a nascent phenomenon, accessible only to the intrepid few. And at the heart of this digital revolution stood a pioneering company, Netscape Communications. Their browser, Netscape Navigator, was the undisputed king, a gleaming portal to the burgeoning online world. It was user-friendly, innovative, and for a time, utterly dominant. Navigator controlled over 90% of the browser market. For many, Netscape was the internet. They were the gatekeepers, the designers of the digital window through which millions would eventually peer. This unchallenged supremacy, however, drew the attention of a titan far larger, far more established, and far more ruthless: Microsoft. Bill Gates and his empire saw the internet not as a niche, but as the next battleground for software supremacy. Their operating system, Windows, was on nearly every personal computer. They understood, perhaps better than anyone, the power of controlling the platform, and the internet was rapidly becoming the ultimate platform. This realization would spark the first brutal browser war. Microsoft's entry into the browser arena was not a gentle foray, it was a full frontal assault. Their weapon, Internet Explorer. Initially a technologically inferior product, Explorer had a secret weapon that Netscape could never match. It was bundled, for free, with every copy of Microsoft Windows. This was a strategic masterstroke, a move so audacious it seemed to redefine business ethics. Why would a user pay for Netscape Navigator when a seemingly capable alternative was already installed on their computer at no extra cost? The answer for many was they wouldn't. The numbers began to shift, slowly at first, then with accelerating speed. Microsoft poured immense resources into improving Explorer, catching up to, and eventually surpassing, Netscape's features. They actively suppressed rivals, leveraging their operating system monopoly to strong-arm computer manufacturers and internet service providers into promoting Explorer. The battle wasn't just about features, it was about distribution, about control. Developers, seeing the writing on the wall, optimized their websites for Explorer, further cementing its position. Netscape, despite its initial brilliance, found itself in an unwinnable war of attrition against a behemoth that could afford to bleed money indefinitely in pursuit of total market domination. The company was crippled, its market share plummeting. By 1999, Internet Explorer had eclipsed Netscape, ultimately claiming well over 90% of the market, ironically mirroring Netscape's earlier dominance. This led to a landmark antitrust case against Microsoft, where the courts found the company had illegally maintained its monopoly. But the damage to Netscape was done. The company was acquired by AOL and faded into obscurity, a grim warning about the perils of competing with a monopolist. The first browser war ended not with a bang, but with a whimper, an eerie silence that settled over the digital landscape. For years, Internet Explorer reigned supreme, unchallenged, stagnant, and arguably stifling innovation. This quiet period, however, was merely the calm before the next storm. From the ashes of Netscape, a new challenger emerged: Mozilla Firefox, built with open-source principles. And then, in 2008, the true game changer arrived, a browser spearheaded by the new internet giant, Google Chrome. The stage was set for the second, arguably more consequential, browser war. The second browser war was less about bundling and more about speed, security, and developer tools. Google Chrome hit the scene like a bolt of lightning, promising unparalleled performance and a sleek, minimalist interface. It was fast, it was secure, and perhaps most importantly, it was backed by Google, a company that understood the internet in a way Microsoft seemingly no longer did. Chrome quickly gained traction, chipping away at Internet Explorer's dwindling stronghold and even surpassing Firefox. Google, unlike Microsoft with its Windows monopoly, leveraged its vast ecosystem, its search engine, Gmail, YouTube, to promote Chrome. While not bundled in the same way Explorer was, a subtle nudge from Google's services often led users towards Chrome. Best viewed in Chrome became a common, if unofficial, directive. The competition was fierce, and this time it was genuinely beneficial for users. Browsers became faster, more feature-rich, and more secure than ever before. But as Chrome's dominance grew, so too did concerns. By the mid-2010s, Chrome's market share began to reach the dizzying heights once enjoyed by Explorer. Today, it stands at over 60%, a colossal, almost unchallenged figure. This isn't just about a successful product, it's about control. Google, through Chrome, dictates web standards, influences how websites are built, and even has a direct window into the browsing habits of billions. They control the advertising infrastructure that powers much of the internet, and a dominant browser only strengthens that hold. If a feature isn't implemented in Chrome, it effectively doesn't exist for a huge portion of the internet. If a website doesn't perform well in Chrome, it faces significant traffic loss. This is power on an unprecedented scale, a quiet monopoly that shapes our digital experience in ways we rarely consider. What they discovered next changed everything. The sheer, overwhelming power wielded by a single entity over the very arteries of the internet. To this day, the browser war continues, albeit in a far more subtle form. It's no longer a loud, headline-grabbing conflict, but a simmering undercurrent, a foundational leverage point in the ongoing battle for digital control. Why does nobody talk about it? Perhaps because the victor is so entrenched, so ubiquitous, that its power seems like the natural order of things. Or perhaps because the very term browser war evokes images of a past conflict, masking the current reality, an ongoing occupation. What happens when one company effectively controls the window to the internet for the vast majority of users? It stifles innovation, reduces choice, and creates a single point of failure that could have catastrophic consequences. The next front in this never-ending war might not even be against another browser, but against emerging technologies, against privacy advocates, or against any attempt to decentralize the web. The question isn't if the next battle will come, but when and what form it will take. Until then, remember that every click, every scroll happens within a framework designed and largely controlled by a single entity. The war never truly ended. It merely entered a new, more insidious phase. If you want more mysteries like this, the next video explores the hidden algorithms that dictate what you see online and how they're quietly rewriting our individual realities.